this Browns defense, by a lot of metrics, is top of the league.
Sure.
But when you compare some of the big bulk numbers with the Browns defense, the Browns have 40 sacks, Houston has 36. Browns have 14 picks, Texans have 12. There are some other metrics where they don't exactly measure up.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, those are kind of that's the skeleton of a great defense. And they've been performing in that way. Now, they've given up a lot more yards, but this is a defense that can play very well. And I think if anybody's thinking that the Browns are just going to roll down to Houston and have their way with this defense, I don't think it's going to be that easy.
And they've gotten better, much better as the season's gone along. Early in the year,
Good
they
point.
struggled, and they've played a lot better. Listen, I never expect the games to be easy in the NFL. Certainly the way the Browns are currently constituted, most of their games are very close and competitive. I obviously feel a lot better about their chances of winning without C.J. Stroud, and he's not going to play. Not to mention their best receiver, Tank Dell, is done for the season. Their second best receiver is probably out for this game, Nico Collins. So, yeah, they're hamstrung on offense, but they still have some talented guys, and Devin Singletary's run the ball well. Case Keenum's a legitimate veteran, and their defense has played well. So, while I'm expecting the Browns to ultimately win, I'm expecting them, as usual, to win a close game.
Yeah.
By any means necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Malcolm X out there. We need to come out here and look, we got to have it. And I need that defense. I don't know what they do and what they eat before they play at home. I don't know what kind of music they listening to, whether it's DMX or Jay-Z or whatever. I need all the gangster music playing, and I need you to be in here stopping this run. Because right now, they're down in the top 3. If they can bring that home field type mentality to what they're doing against the Texans, you've got a great opportunity to shut down the run game. And then if you can get up and we can get a couple of scores early, now we can take all that out of play action, dink and dunk. Now Case Keenum, who we know intimately, has to push the ball downfield without his best playmakers. And I believe that's when we can get those those strip sacks. We can get the fumbles. We can get the tackles for loss. And that's what we need to get to. We got to start off fast. 7, 10, 14 points quickly. I think now that sets us up for winning, conditions out in Texas.
Do we think this is the Coach of the Year Bowl?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. I said earlier that I thought Mike McDaniel in Miami was one of the front runners. The fact that they have not been good against good teams certainly hurts them. I know Denver now has eked their way to 500.
Yeah.
And they absolutely decimated Denver with the 70-point performance. That's a quality win.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you've really got to – you have almost – when you call up their schedule, you're almost doing a double take.
Right, because they've beaten just pathetic teams.
They've beaten up on the doormats.
Yeah, right.
And they've beaten them pretty handily.
Right.
But when they're in games with teams that are 500 or better, they fold like a cheap tent.
Right.
I almost for that. Now, the media loves them. The media loves him.
Love him, but there's no way. To me, it's a two-man race.
I believe you're right. Now, the reason why I have switched my way of thinking, I said last week and even earlier when we talked about this, is Stefanski Coach of the Year? Yes. Will he win it? No. But I do think it is between these two guys now, and DeMeco has to get his team into the playoffs. I think we all agree there.
100%, but they had no expectations coming into the season.
Zero.
And now he won a game last week with Case Keenum, and if they do win this
if they win this one,
Case Keenum,
he's the front runner, especially because, as you put it, the Coach of the Year Bowl. He would have won in the head-to-head.
I think we've got the Coach of the Year Bowl this week, and probably the MVP Bowl between the Ravens
San Francisco and
Niners.
Baltimore.
I think they're the two favorites there.
If you look at it, you got to get credit for this. No one liked your team when Deshaun Watson was here. Look how much for a whole year.
Right.
They eviscerated your team in the media. Look at it this way: who's the toughest division in football?
Well, right now it's the North, I would think.
Bar none.
But DeMeco Ryans deserves to be in the conversation. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Coming into the year, people thought the Browns would be better than the Texans.
Right.
And they've had a lot of injuries too. You know, outside of Tank Dell, it hasn't been, and Stroud the last couple of weeks, there's not been as many key players, but their offensive line, like the Browns, has been completely shredded. Yeah. I was talking with Sean Salisbury yesterday. You know Sean, probably, right?
Yep.
I had him on my podcast. He was like, he's like, I'm not sure they've had the same offensive line for a half the whole season.
Well, our offensive line got messed up the first week.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's to me.
So there's a lot of comparisons between the two roster attritions.
To me, there's no other candidates in my mind. They're 1 and 2, however you slice it. I think after that, there's a drop to McDaniel. I think if the Bengals make the playoffs, you got to give Zach Taylor some credit there with the backup quarterback. I think Dan Campbell gets some credit. I think Sean Payton, if the Broncos made the playoffs.
Yeah, there's some names out there.
But these two guys, to me, are clearly the two tops.
I can't imagine Sean Payton winning anything.
Yeah,
because he is not well liked.
No, that's
he is not well liked, particularly by the media.
And just think about it like this, man, and this will blow your mind away. The Kansas City Chiefs have had Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes all year, the whole time. And the Cleveland Browns could have the same record as them with 4 or 5 quarterbacks.
Well, they have the same record right now, right?
If you would have said that, that's crazy. I know these other teams might make the playoffs, but the Browns, if they went out, just didn't make
If the Browns win out, Stefanski's winning the coach of the year.
The 4 quarterbacks thing, to me, the 4 quarterbacks thing gives Kevin Stefanski such a front-runner position as it is. Then you throw in, game 2, we're pulling Nick Chubb out of the mix.
Right.
So your best and most dynamic offensive player out, and then the most important position to any team, you'll be on number 4.
Right.
And you've won games with all 4.
Yeah.
I mean,
now
my
number
goodness,
4 is
in a
probably
vacuum,
the second best.
He likely is.
But
But the way it played out, he was 4th in the order.
Right,
he came around last.
And on top of it, they got the best defense. So when you look at it, and they have a best defense because they made a conscious effort to go out and go get Jim Schwartz and get the pieces they need. I think
get players. And in the past, we've criticized Kevin Stefanski times when the defense was bad. So he's got to get some credit too. He's the head man. Somebody asked me the other day on my podcast. They asked me, if you could only keep one guy, Kevin Stefanski, Jim Schwartz, or Callahan, who would you keep? And I said, hey, listen, I love Schwartz, I love Callahan, but Kevin Stefanski's the head coach.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm keeping him.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I could find another great defensive coordinator. Maybe he wouldn't be the right guy. I don't know. But the other guy the Browns were looking at, Brian Flores, he's done a really good job this year too.
Yes.
I'm not saying I would want to get rid of Schwartz and Callahan are fantastic coaches. Hope they stay with the Browns for the next bunch. I haven't heard any buzz about Jim Schwartz for the head coaching jobs. Doesn't mean it won't happen.
No, it usually happens in the month of December. You start hearing about guys.
You're hearing about
playoffs. And we want to interview this guy.
Because you're already hearing about Ben Johnson, who's the Lions OC. You're hearing about Harbaugh. You're hearing about Belichick. We'll see. It depends how many jobs are open. But
I'm not. But listen, I'm not going to go into this thing. And if Jim Schwartz is up for jobs, I'm not going to come out here and be like, well, the next guy. No, it's not. Jim Schwartz is not replaceable in what this defense is doing. I like the way they play. I like the way everybody comes in and plays. I don't care if they got to offer him 6 more positions that are figurehead positions underneath Stefanski. Assistant coach, head coach, assistant.
It'd likely be associate,
assistant, vice. I don't care. Just add something to it, give him a bag, and see he's not going nowhere.
Pay him the most of any defensive coordinator.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think, to Bull's point, there are other great defensive coordinators out there. But
nobody wants to lose him.
You wind the clock back when you have to change someone at that position. Just like the Bengals, your guy has been mentioned a lot as a potential head coach in Cincinnati, the defensive coordinator there. He likely will get a shot at some, he'll get interviews. For sure,
he's
you would think.
Interviews,
So, it's tough because now you have to find someone who has the same philosophy. That's rare. There's a lot of different coaching philosophies. His coaching lane, and you've said this a lot because you really made it your business to know what he's about. There's not a lot of guys that are wired like he is to do exactly what he does.
Right.
We talk a lot about how he looks at contain, how he rushes the quarterbacks. He's a different breed, and you're not just going to go plug some other guy into this same defense and get the same production.
And you talk about, we talk all the time about chemistry between players. Well, there's chemistry between coach and player, too. And Jim Schwartz now, think about this. He's done a great job his first year. What could he do next year? Right. Now he's going into the offseason. He knows these players even better.
Now we might get some draft picks up front. Now think about it like that. Usually, he last year he came in, he didn't really have any say in who these guys are. Now you could get guys now year 2. He's going to be working with some of the young guys you got. And so you want to keep that consistency, especially the way the team responds to him. Everybody you talk to said, I just love it. Denzel Ward is playing better. Greg Newsom's playing better. So I think we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit.
Yeah, I think
we got a lot of playoff and a lot of stuff down the, but I'm not too high on him leaving and going nowhere else.
I'm not either. Hopefully they can make sure they do what they need to do to keep him because you lose a coach like that, it is like losing a great player. it can be even more impactful
Yeah.
because I think, we always talk about the sum of the parts. We knew that this defense had great individual players. Hell, turns out JOK is a great individual player.
Yeah.
But in the system he was in under Joe Woods, he looked,
work.
by everybody's
Yeah.
standards, he was cuttable. Like, just cut your losses with
Yeah.
this guy. And now all of a sudden, he's, to me, a
Pro Bowler.
damn near lock to go to the Pro Bowl.
At worst, he's in the conversation.
And who would have thought that a year ago
Never.
when we were saying, just cut bait on this guy, he can't play. You bring in a new witchmaster and he starts stirring the brew and says, no. You were used out of position. We weren't playing to your strengths. We were making you think. You just go out there and react and respond like good linebackers do. And he's gotten better. I think Myles Garrett is playing. Obviously the injuries have slowed him down. Myles Garrett was having his best season.
We were just talking about this the other day when you weren't here, Jay, that we've always talked about that there's another half a floor for a guy like Myles Garrett that
Yes.
only 3 or 4 players have that little extra level.
Right.
He hadn't quite reached it. And we were talking about, like, he had always been kind of good against the run, but not great against the run. This year, he's always been a great pass rusher. But this year, his run defense has reached a whole nother level. And even as he's been hurt, you've seen him get better these last 3 weeks as he's coming back from the injury. I'm expecting him to have a big game this week, personally. You got a Texans offensive line that's a mess, a quarterback that can't run.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a big game. One of our fence rider questions is, will Myles Garrett have a sack this week? I don't know if it was 1 sack, everyone was, but I think he's going to break his sackless streak here these last couple
I
of
hope
weeks.
so.
I think he gets.
He's
the quarterback
definitely
this
not
week.
been himself the last couple of weeks.
Right,
since
but
he
he's
injured
been
the
getting
shoulder.
better. He was more of an impact
Yeah.
last week than he was the 2
I
weeks
thought he was
before
actually
that.
better 2 weeks ago than he was last week. I felt
See, I
just
think
in terms of production, I
Yeah.
thought he took a step back because he had no production in that first game.
Yeah.
And then he looked pretty good in the second game, and then the last game I thought
He had that big tackle for a loss
I thought that was
on
huge.
Khalil Herbert.
I thought that was
he has
huge.
a sack on a
Second to
two-point
last man
conversion
drive,
that
the
doesn't
sack.
count.
Yeah.
Well,
Why it
that was
doesn't
2
count.
games ago.
Oh, was that 2 days?
Yeah, that was
ago?
2 games ago. Yeah, I don't know why that doesn't count.
It's
It's
so
stupid.
stupid to me that it doesn't count.
I know.
I mean, it's still a sack, and
It's a play.
I get it.
It's a
It
sack.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Football's got some weird rules.
No, but I think Myles Garrett. We got to look at it like this. I think we're not used to giving the Browns benefit of the doubt on certain things. Like if this was another player, they would say, well, he's the best player in the best defense.
Well, I think a lot of people are saying that, though.
Like, well, now they're coming around to it. Now they're but
Yeah.
we naturally assume that he has to have the most sacks for him to be in the conversation. And I thought Kevin Stefanski said it. I thought he had a good point. We get caught in sacks a lot, but it's more than sacks. It's more than that number that proves that you're the best player and the most valuable player.
well, that's the equivalent to the home run in baseball. That's the number that everybody gravitates to. I think you're right. Didn't Stefanski, if I'm not mistaken, I read a quote from him where he said he's the defensive POY and it's not even close.
Yeah.
I disagree with obviously Stefanski's biased. I disagree that it's not close. We talked about it yesterday. I think it is close. I would vote for him right now. We still have 3 weeks to go. But it's not. I mean, usually the guy who leads the league in sacks is in the conversation.
Yes.
So it's
Almost
not crazy
always.
to say
Yeah.
that.
No, almost
but
always.
we'll see. Listen, the Browns. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the week. The Browns have 6, 7, 8 guys that could be Pro Bowlers this year, which is remarkable considering
Do we
some
know
of their
when that
best
comes
players are
out?
hurt.
I asked that Monday, and I'm not sure
I
when
think
that team is announced.
I think it's next week. I think it's next week. I believe it comes out.
Sounds like
I think it's
it
with
feels
2
like
weeks
you're
to
right.
go.
It's usually with 1 or 2 games left in the regular season.
So on offense, guys that at least have a puncher's chance.
Batonio does. doesn't he?
Batonio, Teller, and we were talking
What
about.
what about
I think
Njoku?
I think he's a lock.
Yeah,
I don't see
I
how
do
he's not
too.
in. There's
I do
only
too.
he's one of the 3 best tight ends in the AFC without a doubt. And then on special teams, obviously the kicker.
Seems like it.
They may only take 1 kicker, so maybe they take Justin Tucker out of, because they always take him. I don't know, but the punter maybe.
He's played well enough.
On defense, Myles Garrett's a lock. Denzel Ward was a lock till he got hurt. We'll see. Certainly Martin Emerson, you can make a case. And
JOK.
certainly JOK, you can make a case.
Yeah, that's 7 guys.
Yeah.
Hell, that'd be
Actually,
nice.
that's 9 possibles if you include
If
the
you
punter.
can punter and
I
kicker.
might be pushing it on the punter.
Yeah.
So I'll say 8.
Well, his net
average
average
is
is way up the chart.
I'll throw this out at you guys because Jason has said this before, And, we're kind of apprehensive. You know me. I like to get in front of stuff. I don't like waiting on nothing. I don't like Christmas waiting. I don't like waiting on Christmas presents or birthday presents. So Jason said, hey, that Browns, they should sign him. I've seen some stuff that he's done. And that was in the middle of the year. Now,
Sign who?
Kevin Stefanski.
Oh, okay.
Now, if Kevin Stefanski wins Coach of the Year, they have to sign him, don't they?
They have to sign him.
At the end of the year,
He's getting. That's not even.
Because
he's only got 1 year left on his
Because
contract.
we had-
But you never let him go into his last year.
We hadn't revisited it since that. We was like, we'll wait to see how the season happens a little bit.
My point to Jason was, Jason said like 4 weeks ago after a nice win, he gets an extension right now. And I said, what's the hurry?
Yeah.
Like, he can't go anywhere. He's yours under contract next year. Obviously, the Browns aren't going to let him go into the last year of his deal. And to me, that's an absolute complete no-brainer. He's got his extension locked, and it's just a matter of presenting it to him.
So, January 3rd, by the way. It's so there's two more weeks of games.
So you got
so it's before the last week of the regular season.
So you've already signed off. He's getting locked up. It's a matter of time.
I think it's a no-brainer.
But I feel this. I know that Flacco's a free agent at the end of the year, and I don't want to go down that road. But I feel the same way about Stefanski. I feel I'll deal with that in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I'll deal with that in the offseason. But I mean, it's a no-brainer. There's no argument. To me, it would be insane not to give him a contract extension this offseason.
I just can't imagine any world, even if they lose the last 3.
Right.
I just don't think there's a world where he doesn't get an extension.
And
based on what he was able to do and what he had to work with.
And the way this team has played, you never know. It's a wacky, wild season.
I know.
The way this team has played, it's impossible for me to believe they'd lose 3 in a row.
It is for me, too.
But I guess you never know. But I agree with you. Even if they did somehow, I'm still giving them an extension, but that's not going to happen.
So think about it like this. I don't know where this puts him in the pantheon, but he's been here, 5 years?
Yeah, this will be his 4th.
This is his fourth year.
So who has won 2 Coach of the Years in their first 4?
I wouldn't even know. I don't know, because I know typically that award, more than any other, I like to give it to it almost always goes to a first-time coach.
So that
or a coach with his second or third year with that team.
So that would mean,
and they had a thing against Belichick. Belichick's probably only won 2 or 3.
Right.
And you guys
some
got
of those
Super
awards,
Bowls.
I don't know. Kobe Bryant won 1 MVP.
Yeah.
I mean,
how do you answer that?
but Coach of the Year, 2 times in 4 years is ridiculous. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. Does that necessarily point to his eliteness? You be like, listen, I got 2 Coach of the Years in 4 years.
With entirely different
quarterback
systems, everything.
And COVID. A COVID year, and I got Deshaun Watson year.
You guys know how much I defended and loved Kevin Stefanski.
Yes.
You don't get elite status until you win a Super Bowl. And he's won 0 playoff games.
No, you're right.
His team has won 1. So until you do something in the playoffs,
you're right.
You don't get the elite tag. But he's done a great job.
You can call him pretty damn good in the regular season.
Yeah.
I don't even know about elite.
They done stripped him. Regular season award.
Well, I mean, Bull's right. I look at the NFL as there's 2 different leagues. There's 2 different seasons.
Okay.
And it's what you do in the first season, and then it's what you do in the playoffs.
I think you got to at least get to the Super Bowl. At least get there.
Yeah, I agree.
At least get there.
Does that put him in, if you had to rank them, would that put him in, say, the top 5 or top 10 of coaches today?
I would have him in the top 10, not top 5.
I don't know if I can get him in top 5 either.
Yeah.
I don't know. But look, here's the bigger question is he the right guy for this team right now? And that's just yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he'd be considered the best. As long as Andy Reid's still doing it.
Yeah, Andy Reid.
And Bill Belichick is still doing it. I know Belichick's had a real coming back to earth. I think he's a victim of his own ego and trying to be the general manager of a team. He's learned that it's not as easy as he thought it was.
Yeah, he's not a GM anymore.
He's a coach, and he can still be a very damn good coach, but he got sidetracked with the GM carrot, and we saw how that worked.
I can't put him ahead of Sean McVay. I mean, Sean McVay won a Super Bowl. His team might get to the playoffs 2 years later.
That's 2.
Well, you're going to give him Belichick too, aren't you?
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to take.
I'm not putting him in.
All right, I throw Belichick in there, even though he's going to get fired.
He's got 6 rings. I'm going to put him in there.
It's hard.
Harbaugh.
You got to go with Harbaugh.
Yes, Harbaugh's still elite.
You got to go with Tomlin.
Now 5 is sitting there. I'm looking around.
Listen, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
How do you put him ahead of some of these coaches that have gone to the Super Bowl?
Tomlin's been doing it for is he at 20 years now with the Steelers?
Probably.
Yeah.
Now, yes, he's had the lack of his playoff success in the last decade is mark against him. but he's also gone to the Super Bowl and won it.
Is there any? You said there's no world where he does not get a contract extension.
No
Is
world.
there any world where he does not accept a contract extension?
No chance.
And looks at another greener pasture with more power or more.
You know, that's something that only he can answer. And I think the reason that maybe he would is if he's unhappy with the way things are going, this might be an opportunity for him to leverage away some of the power from whether it's DePodesta or whether it's JW or somebody in the organization.
Or if he
I don't
never
think
wanted Deshaun Watson and he's miserable secretly in his heart of hearts.
And that may well be the case.
Sure.
And he says, I don't have enough control over how I pick the players. I want that.
I think it's unlikely. I think unless it's Jimmy in the family. From what we know, he and Barry and DePodesta are cut from the same cloth. We may not like DePodesta, but they're cut from the same cloth. The only thing it would be with Jimmy and the son-in-law. That would be it.
We have heard, whether or not it's true or not, I know we all three have heard the same thread of a rumor or of whispers from Berea that when it came to the Deshaun Watson move, he was not driving the bus on that.
Yep.
Now, there's no way we can confirm that. Even if it were true, Kevin Stefanski would never let anybody onto the fact. But we do, if you piece the comments together, he was asked specifically on the Baker thing, did you think that you could win with Baker moving forward? And his answer was yes. So it leads us to believe that some of the rumor talk that the Deshaun Watson thing was all the owner. He wanted Deshaun Watson, and that was going to happen. Now, if that's true, and we don't know that it is, we've all heard the same thing that it's true. If that's true, and it's made him miserable because now, especially, he's able to look at what he can do when he can put his kind of guy in there and put his kind of system in with the play action and the tall, strong, traditional pocket passer in the NFL. He's like, see, this is what I do, and you can win with that. And they were telling me you can't. You've got to have this guy, and I didn't want this guy. If that animus raises to a certain level, he might just say, I'm going to stick around, but here's the drill.
Or the opportunity. I don't know if he seems to be an ambitious man, but I think every coach has the holy grail is you're the head coach, you call the plays, and you over personnel. Whatever you want to go get, you the general manager de facto, go get him.
I don't even think he wants to do that.
I don't know if he wants to do that.
Everything we know about he and Barry is that they work well together.
Right.
I've not heard anything to the contrary.
No, but the big move that this franchise made.
Right.
We all know what it was.
Yeah.
We've all heard the same thing from Berea. So usually where there's smoke, there's some fire.
Yes, but I've also heard that he was fine with moving on from Baker, not necessarily to Watson.
There's a difference about being fine with.
Yeah.
Because we all have bosses. If your boss comes in and says, this is what we're going to do, well, then you better be fine with it.
Yeah.
Or you just say what a good employee says, I'm going to make this work. I'll make it work one way or another. But the thread of what we heard was it wasn't Andrew and it wasn't Kevin. It was all owner-based. And if that's true, and Kevin and that animus, again, raises to a certain level, he seems to be a pretty easygoing guy. I don't anticipate that.
This is very unlikely. We just hashing it out because, look.
In the end, guys, I'd be shocked if he didn't want to
and
sign
I would too.
I'd be very
I'd be floored.
Yeah.
But, there is there a scenario where that happens? I think that it's out there, but highly unlikely.
The one thing you can credit Jimmy with, really the only thing you can credit with, is he'll pay Kevin Stefanski whatever he needs to pay him.
Yes, he'll give him the money that he deserves.
Yep.
Yeah.
He'll likely get probably a new 5-year deal.
Absolutely.
I imagine they would rip up the last year of his first 5-year deal and give him a current 5-year going forward.
Absolutely.
And let's face it, in the world that we've lived in, if someone would have told you when they hired him he's going to be here for 9 years, you would automatically say, oh, that means we're relevant.
Yeah.
That means we've had success. That means we're playing in January. All of that's a good thing. Let's keep it going.
Stability in this organization for the first time in a long time.
First time in a